Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi, and today we have our first team report from Liverpool Regionals, and I'm joined by another top player. We have the chef. We have Ben. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I was really excited to watch Liverpool Regionals. Obviously, there wasn't a stream, unfortunately, but there was some really cool teams to come out of it. And of course, I think your team might have been the coolest. But first, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, uh, I'm Grismer. I'm from the United States, even though this was a an England regional. I started playing VGC in 2017, uh, and some of my accomplishments I've done. I made it to day two in NA internationals three times. All three times that it has occurred, and now with this finish, have gotten top four at two regionals. And I like to think of myself as a creative team builder, and I think usually my teams are on the more offensive side and the more bizarre side, which I think you'll see in this one.
Yeah, uh, so this is the team you used. Obviously, you are known for using all sorts of wild teams, all sorts of really interesting offensive teams. And this one, is up there. So, do you want to talk me through your team building process and how you built this team?
Yeah, definitely. So it's started with a team I used in series 8/series 11. I think with the one restricted, but I loved the pair of Zacian and Thunderous. I loved how well they work together. Zacian being a really strong restricted Pokemon that doesn't need to Dynamax, and Thunderous as a Pokemon that really wants to Dynamax next to it, deterring Intimidate and things like that, giving it speed boosts. I just love how the two work together. So I had a team of Zacian, Thunderous, Whimsicott, Galarian, Darmanitan, uh, Rillaboom, and Chandelure in Series 11. And I basically just made very minor changes to that to arrive at this one of which was switching the Imprisoned Trick Room Chandelure for a nice Imprisoned Trick Room restricted Pokemon Calyrex. Uh, and in fact, I think that it really works together with the Calyrex Shadow really works together with the Zacian and the Thundurus to form this really strong core of three Pokemon. Any combination of the two being out together puts on so much offensive pressure uh, that can really snowball onto itself, and then the rest of the team is filling it out for different matchups.
You said that that Series 11 team, like Darmanitan, was just a common Pokemon then, but you got to explain why was there a Darmanitan on the original team? That's such an off the wall choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Darmanitan, and I've loved Darmanitan since the start of Generation 8, and I love it as this kind of cleanup Pokemon that you bring in the back that can come in and finish the game off no matter what the situation is. And Icicle Crash is really good against uh, a bunch of important Pokemon: Groudon, Yveltal, opposing Thundurus, and then you have the Flare Blitz to outspeed and just one-shot Zacian, which is huge. And Superpower hits Kyogre neutral, it hits Incineroar super effective, and then some Rock Slide flinches, and all of that combined, and you've got a nice Pokemon to come in at the end of the game, and just hits really hard with the Gorilla Tactics, of course.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't even know it got Flare Blitz. That is a really incredible coverage from the Pokemon. And I think Ice coverage, especially, is really underappreciated in this metagame. But we see it put in so much work against things like Groudon, things like all the flying types. Everyone wants to click Max Airstream, and just echoing all of those is absolutely insane. And so, I guess, do you want to talk about the individual Pokemon and what they do? Obviously, your EV spreads you mentioned on Twitter are just all 252, 252. But uh, talk me through the movesets and why you chose the moves that you did.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we'll just start from the top with Calyrex. That one, the 252, 252, I think actually makes is definitely the best spread
Mhm.
with the focus sash. But of course, Astral Barrage, and then I chose Expanding Force as the psychic type move, uh, specifically just to use against Indeedee, opposing Indeedee, and be able to have a spread move that can also hit Indeedee when it's out and put put it into range of a Behemoth Blade or a Max Airstream, which was super helpful. And then Imprison Trick Room, I love Imprison Trick Room. It's like a free matchup against Trick Room teams. It's not as simple as just clicking Imprison, of course, but it gives you the options. Um, and then the other thing I like about that is that both of those moves have other utility on the team. So Imprison can be situationally useful against other Calyrex to stop them from attacking, um, which comes up. And your own Trick Room is nice to have. To you can unexpectedly set a Trick Room against an opponent using Tailwind, and that can be a really funny way to take an unexpected game. So I love the combination of that on the Calyrex.
And did you ever miss the other moves that it commonly runs, like Protect or Will-O-Wisp? I guess I don't know if Will-O-Wisp applies to this team so much, but Protect definitely seems like it's a useful
Yeah,
utility move.
anytime you're not running Protect, you come into situations where you wish you had Protect. But honestly, the more I played with the team, the more I was surprised by how little I missed Protect. And I was okay not having it.
Hmm. It definitely seems like this team obviously tries to go fast, hit hard, and so Trick Room is a big problem. You definitely needed that sort of counterplay. And I remember, I think we played in NPA where you used the imprisoned Chandelure and beat me because of it. So uh, definitely a like for like replacement in that respect. Just go fast, goes even faster, hits even harder, but does a lot
Yeah.
of the same things there. Yeah, and so talk me through the Zacian. I guess the other restricted on your team. You are opting for to not run play rough, instead running substitute, and of course running the close combat instead of Sacred Sword, which is something that I've seen a lot of Calyrex teams not do. But if you're maxing the Calyrex, I always thought that close combat was the better move. So I guess talk me through why you ran this move set.
Yeah, you're exactly right with the close combat. Well, yeah, for two reasons. The first being that close combat just does more damage, um, which is nice. And a lot of most, I think it makes sense that most Zacian don't want to drop their defenses. But I was normally okay with dropping my defenses, with the plan being that I'm gonna knock you out with close combat instead. So if I lower my defenses, that's fine. And the other thing, like you were saying, is that Sacred Sword ignores all defense changes, even defense drops. So if you max Calyrex and use max Phantasm, uh, you can't take advantage of it with Sacred Sword. Well, you can with close combat, so that's helpful. And then the substitute, uh, like I was saying before, the team has so much offensive pressure. You get into situations a lot of time where you can take advantage of that by setting up a substitute while opponents protect or switch. And I never felt the need for play rough.
Did you ever consider a bulkierization, or was just 252, 252 always the play for this team?
Yeah, no, I definitely I tried out Zacians with a little more bulk, but every time I took away a little bit of attack, there's something would come up where it would just barely miss out on getting knockouts, and it's not always obvious to see because it's not just straight things getting one hit by Behemoth Blade. There's a lot of combination moves with this team, like especially with an Astral Barrage into a Behemoth Blade or uh, whatever it may be. And I wanted all of the attack that I could get.
Hmm. Makes sense. Uh, and then I guess moving on to the next Pokemon, you see Thundurus, of course, having been paired with Zacian and Calyrex quite a bit recently, and also Urshifu historically. Can you talk me through why you put this Pokemon on the team and why you chose these moves and this item?
Yeah, I think like you said, Thunderous just has been on this team comp a lot, and for good reason. It fits so well, specifically against Incineroar, who would just love to have a field day against Calyrex and Zacian. You always want to bring your Incineroar against Calyrex and Zacian. It's just so good. But Thunderous uh, kind of puts a stop to that a little bit, or can punish it. And also, uh, it just works well to give those two Pokemon the Airstream boost, the speed boosts from Airstream, or Zacian a max Knuckle boost, and also being able to hit Kyogre, which Calyrex and Zacian do okay, but not great. So being able to have something really strong against Kyogre really brings the core together.
And how often were you maxing the Thunderous versus some of the other options on the team?
Thunderous is almost always the max option. I was talking to some people before the event about the team, and they were saying that maybe one issue is that it can be a little one-dimensional with knowing that Thunderous is going to be the max option. And I think that can be true, but it's just such a strong max Pokemon with the very powerful attacks with the Life Orb that can't be intimidated. Um, that it works really well. But yeah, so I'd say Thunderous is maxing at least 90% of the time, but Calyrex can max in certain situations, and maybe Urshifu sometimes, but usually Thunderous.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that physical Thunderous usage has kind of fallen off a little bit. It was much more popular earlier in the format, but I know on teams like the Palkia team that I've been using, I said my Zacian doesn't have to outspeed Thunderous. It's just not common enough, and I don't need it for these game plans. And um, that I mean, just partially because it had fallen out of favor, and so it was definitely a really good pick into the metagame, just because of how uncommon it was and how many people had kind of conceded that matchup a little bit more compared to deal with all these other powerful threats that we're starting to see.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think I've faced any Zacian that were slower than me, but that's interesting to know.
Yeah, I know Agati had done something similar too, and so I don't know if anyone else had picked up on it, but definitely something that was starting to see a little bit of fringe meta play, and now with teams like this that are really more reliant on Thunder is coming back into the fold, probably less feasible. So, um, yeah. And then the next Pokemon is the Whimsicott, and of course you do have the eject button on it. Can you talk me through why you chose this Whimsicott set?
Yeah, so there's a eject button with no switcheroo, uh, which is weird in this Generation 8 Dynamax era, but the reason is pretty simple, which is just eject uh, I wanted the eject for myself and not for the opponent. Whimsicott is really there to match opponent tailwind to get to speed control when I need it. And after it does that, I'd prefer it to get out of there. And whether that's getting knocked out or getting ejected, that's fine. But uh, that's its job. So I love having the eject button on it. And that's also why I went with the 252 spread on that too. I don't mind if it gets knocked out. Um, and giving it a little more offensive boost is nice. Uh, so yeah, that's the
Did you
reasoning behind the eject button.
Did you feel like you were always running these four moves, or did you ever consider running something like Switcheroo to maybe take advantage of the eject button more?
Honestly, I probably didn't explore the different options as much as I should have. Uh, I kind of got into a rhythm with the team, and then the event was approaching, and I just felt I was super comfortable with how it was, and I didn't want to worry about making any last minute changes. But I think you could definitely try out some different options.
Hmm. I one funny thing is that I think if I saw an eject button on Whimsicott game one in a best of three, I would definitely assume it had trick or switcheroo, and try to play around that as much as possible in game two and three. And so it's really funny that you just didn't need it.
Yeah,
Um, and you just got basically like five moves of utility out of Whimsicott because I think everyone is playing around trick eject button, especially when they see a team like this in team preview.
yeah, that definitely makes sense.
And so I guess why did you run the four moves that you did on Whimsicott?
Yeah, so Tailwind, pretty obvious. Moonblast, you can go with Moonblast, you can go with the grass move. I decided to go with Moonblast. Um, you know, either works. There's arguments for both. But I liked the little bit of extra damage into dark types, specifically Grimmsnarl, and being able to hit Incineroar neutral was nice. Urshifu, was also nice. Uh, but again, grass moves could have been an option also. So, and I think the main reason, now that I think about it a little bit, is that Moonblast is just a little bit more powerful than the grass move options, uh, just
Mm-hmm.
against the neutral target.
And then I guess taunt. Did you feel like that was essential for this team? I know a lot of Whimsicots. That's the move that some of them are dropping for other support moves.
Yeah, taunt could definitely be dropped. It did come in handy. Comes in handy against opposing Whimsicott. Sometimes can come in handy against Thundurus and Amoonguss. Gives you an option against some things that want to put you to sleep. Can give you another option against maybe something trying to use Trick Room. But Taunt would definitely be the move to drop for a different support move. Um, and then Helping Hand, though, very essential uh, when Whimsicott doesn't end up getting switched out and has to stay on the field. Being able to boost an attack of any of those three core members is so helpful. Especially giving a nice Helping Hand to an Astral Barrage just makes it that much more powerful.
Right. And of course, helping hand goes before something like fake out. So even though you have the eject button, if you get helping hand off, you're basically doing his job, and you can always come back in later in the game, which is cool.
Yes, that's a good point. That is important.
And then I guess moving on to the Urshifu, uh, talk me through this Urshifu set, why you chose to run Choice Band, and then why you chose the four moves that you did.
Yeah, so Urshifu was the last addition to the team. I kind of had the other five worked out and was trying to figure out the last slot. And the main reason I chose Urshifu was to fix particularly bad matchups against Sogaleo and Dialga. And it does really well to fix those matchups. I actually find those matchups to be uh, not a problem with the Urshifu option. Um, and Choice Band, I love the power of Choice Band, but also I didn't have Focus Sash available. So Choice Band seemed like a good option. And it can
Mhm.
sometimes fill that role of Darmanitan against certain teams, where it comes in at the end and can hit really hard, um, and clean up the game. And also the ability to have Sucker Punch for some priority uh, came in handy also.
Mm-hmm. Uh, and then, of course, last but not least, the Darmanitan. We did talk about that a little earlier, but did you have anything to add about the Darmanitan moveset?
Um, no, nothing to add. I don't think. Just to repeat how it's just such a great cleanup Pokemon with such great coverage. Uh, Gets some one hit KOs, and even if it doesn't get the one hit KO, it really puts a dent in things. Uh, so that's why I love using it.
Yeah. I know that, like, this sort of thunderous Calorexization team, it is floating around, and I've seen a few different ways of building it. I think I've seen like Blastoise builds as well. Did you ever consider any other builds of this team or any other Pokemon on this sort of team?
Yeah, I've definitely seen those other builds, and uh, they're honestly they're a little bit too passive for me. I like uh, how this team really takes advantage of the offensive Calyrex, but I can see why those other teams are strong options as well. But honestly, I think I had this team built close to how it is now, even before I was seeing those other teams. So this is just always I've been using this team for a while now. It's always been what I'm comfortable with, so I've been sticking to it.
Yeah, and I mean that comfort level and that power definitely paid off for you this past weekend. And so, can you talk me through some of the game plans you had in mind against some of the common teams in the format? The most notable one, of course, being the one that has won back-to-back regionals in the Rinja Sun team, the Sun Gastrodon Charizard team.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, unfortunately, this team is definitely not the answer everyone is searching for for how to beat that Sun team. The matchup is it's definitely not bad. It's probably close to even, but it's definitely not a particularly good matchup against that Sun team. Um, Groudon uh, can be a little tough to deal with, especially Dynamax and under screens, and that's really the only issue. Uh, but there are a lot of ways to hit it hard, and with a team effort, you can break through that. And the positive thing is that other than the Groudon, the rest of the team is really nice to go up against. Charizard, you love going up against Charizard. Incineroar, of course, is great. Zacian is no problem. So yeah, it's really just that Groudon. And the thing is, the opponent had to know and figure out the right way to play uh, against me first of all, which isn't the easiest thing to do, especially when you're faced with a team that you've definitely never seen before. Um, so first they had to find that correct game plan, and even then, it's not an awful matchup. Uh, Darmanitan hits it hard, and if you can break through that Groudon uh, with the screens, uh, it'll be okay.
Did you have a set lead or set four Pokemon that you were bringing every time when you faced it, or did you kind of change it up every game?
Um, yeah, so honestly, the which Pokemon I brought changed a lot, uh, considering the support Pokemon, uh, even on teams where the restricted Pokemon were the same. Um, but generally, I almost always brought Calyrex, Zacian, and Thundurus as that core of three, and then picked the fourth to go along with it for the matchup. So with that Sun team with no real good speed control options, I didn't need Whimsicott. Uh, Urshifu is a possibility because it's nice that Wicked Blow can break through screens and ignore a reflect. But Darmanitan, I would usually bring Darmanitan to be able to hit that Groudon nice and hard, and also outspeed Visation and knock it out.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess the other team that I think everyone expected to see a lot of was the Kyorization teams, which of course there are many different like variants of that team. But did you have an idea of how you wanted to approach that matchup when you saw it?
Yeah, definitely. For the variant with Whimsicott, um, that's a matchup where Whimsicott's usually going to come to match the Tailwind, or uh, try to set a Trick Room, uh, which works a good amount of the time when you go for it. Uh, but you can't really rely on that to win a best of 3. You can maybe rely on it to take a game, but then Whimsicott is usually going to come after that. But if it's the version with screens and with no Whimsicott, then Darmanitan is usually the choice as the 4th Pokemon to do some damage and outspeed Zacian, and also it's nice against whatever electric flying type they happen to have, or a Rillaboom or something like that.
Yeah, makes sense. And then, were there any other teams that you had very specific game plans for, or that you were especially concerned about facing going into this regional?
Well, one team that had a very specific game plan was the Trick Room Palkia Calyrex Ice teams, which is a wonderful matchup, which I love to face, to lead Calyrex and Thundurus and imprison the Trick Room. Is just a great matchup. In terms of matchups I didn't want to see, there's nothing that is there's nothing in the meta right now that's really an awful matchup. One thing that can be annoying is the mirror. Like those first 4 Pokemon mirror, Calyrex, Zacian, Thundurus with Whimsicott also it can be a nightmare. But Darmanitan is actually very helpful in tilting that a little bit in my favor, being able to knock out opposing Dynamax Thundurus and knock out opposing Zacian and outspeed and do a lot to Calyrex. So, I can't think of anything else. But yeah, I would say there's no really awful matchups.
So you mentioned that you're Dynamaxing Thundurus about 90% of the time. Were there any teams that were forcing you off that game plan, or teams that you knew that you were Dynamaxing something like Calyrex into?
There weren't too many teams where I knew I couldn't Dynamax Thundurus. There were definitely games where there were some games I think I didn't even bring Thundurus with a plan to Dynamax Calyrex. But it depends on how the match is going. Sometimes you need to Dynamax Calyrex early on, even if you're planning on keeping the Dynamax for Thundurus, just from whatever comes up in the game. But I don't think there's not a particular matchup where I would say, okay, Calyrex is gonna Dynamax.
Gotcha. And yeah, so those are the questions I had about how you play the team. Were there any notable matchups that you wanted to talk about over the course of your run at Liverpool?
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about the 2 teams that beat me. First, in Swiss, I lost to Terran using the Zacian Ogre Whimsicott build, and he ended up. I think he was the 8-0 in Swiss. Unfortunately, lost in top 8, but still 8-0 in Swiss was really impressive. And he had a killer Whimsicott set that completely destroyed me. In game 1, I went for the cheeky Trick Room against his Whimsicott going for Tailwind, and in fact, he got it up, was feeling very good about everything, but his Whimsicott had Encore, and that put a stop to to my Trick Room plans, and was a quick game 1 loss. So I decided not to go for that again, but just went for the normal matching Tailwinds. But his Whimsicott also had Cotton Spore, which caught me off guard in the second game, and wasn't able to recover from that. And he took a very quick 2-0 of me in Swiss. So there's always things like that that can get you no matter what team you're using, I think. And then in my top 4 match, I lost, of course, to Thomas using his Shedinja Kyogre team. which was tough. I love Shedinja, though. I can never be mad losing to Shedinja. I used Shedinja in 2019 quite a bit. But that one was pretty tough because I really felt like I couldn't bring Zacian. So I was bringing a Calyrex, Thundurus, Darm, and Urshifu, which is a little strange to bring both Urshifu and Darmanitan. But it was a great set, really back and forth matchup, I think. But the Shedinja next to the Kyogre is really tough to deal with if you're not making the right calls. And the Endure, I'll be honest, I didn't even know that that's how Endure worked before I was facing it in Liverpool. I didn't realize that Endure stopped your sash from being consumed. So that is definitely a cool team. And in game 3, I went with a plan of actually Dynamaxing Darmanitan at the end of the game. My plan, I never ended up getting to this point, but my plan was to Dynamax Darmanitan at the end of the game for a max Rockfall to deal with Shedinja. It didn't quite work out that way, and I lost that game 3, but that was a fun match to play.
Yeah, two of the most interesting teams to come out of the tournament. I really wish this was streamed because there were so many cool matchups that would have come out of it. Out of curiosity, did you manage to sign up for European internets?
Yes, I got lucky and was able to sign up. So I'm happy about that, but sad that it all happened the way it did. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's definitely very disappointing that that they have such a small cap that we're not going to see so many good players attend. But I am excited to see you attend with another, potentially this team, potentially something else equally interesting, and hopefully this time we can watch you play.
Yeah, I hope so too.
But yeah, those are all the questions that I had. Did you have any final words or shout outs that you wanted to give?
Yeah, like to shout out the French community, the French players who went with me to Liverpool and hung out with me there. And obviously, Thomas got second, which was great, and a few of the others got CP top 32 or top 16. And of course, the Postwick players and MPA who also have helped me with the team and with some matchups. So yeah, shout out to them too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming on the channel. Again, congratulations on your fantastic finish. And until next time, I will see you all later.